Okay, let's start with this. We have the compass rose, don't forget, north, south, east, and west. Remember, one of the ways I did download a song for you guys, but I also like my personal favorite is never eat soggy waffles. That way you always remember the first letter of each direction, okay? North, east, south, and west. Now don't forget, between north and east, you also have northeast. Between north and west, you have northwest. So think now, what's between south and west? Southwest. And between south and east? Southeast. Yes. Now let's look at our big beautiful planet. Or in my case, it's just a big circle I drew on my board. See, I have my own board at home just to keep me busy. So you notice my planet is a little tipped over. See, that line is not straight up and down. Why? That's right, because the Earth is not straight up and down. The Earth is slightly tilted. We don't notice it though, because we're so tiny on it, we don't see such a thing. So remember, the North Pole, while it's the most north part of the planet, it's not actually at the very, very top. It's kind of like the side top in a way. Same thing with the South Pole. It's at the very bottom, but it's kind of off to the side a little bit. So remember, up here, the North Pole is the Arctic. So of course it has the Arctic Ocean around it. Down here at the South Pole, and what continent is that, by the way? Is your ant that gets really cold. That's right, Antarctica. And Antarctica is surrounded by the Southern Ocean. Now look, I drew this Earth here. Now it's not fancy because there's no way I could properly draw all the continents. I have a little picture for that. But I have this nice blue line down the middle. What do we call this thing that separates the top half of the Earth from the bottom half of the Earth? Who remembers? Yes, it is the equator. It's an imaginary line that runs around the center of the Earth here, like a big belt around the Earth's belly. And that, of course, is the hottest part of the Earth, remember? Because look at this. This is the part of the Earth that sticks out the most, right? If this is the sun, the sunlight's going to hit over here more first than it would over here. See? So over here it gets really hot. And up here, where sunlight and heat are further away, it's much colder. See how far away the sun's heat is? See? It's way over here. But down here, the sun's heat hits it right away. Same thing down at the south. While there is light, there's not as much heat down there. Okay? So the equator is the hottest parts of the Earth. That's where you have things that are around there, like South America, Africa. That's where the rainforests are, if you remember. Those very important forests that we need for life on Earth. Okay, so now remember, because of the equator, we split the top half of the Earth from the bottom half of the Earth. And what did we call those two things? It starts with an H. It's a really long word. There's a northern one and a southern one. The northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Okay? Now, on this other map I'm going to show you in a second, there is another imaginary line that goes down, kind of like the axis, that goes down the center of the Earth, and it's going to split the Earth into east and west. Okay? The eastern hemisphere and the western hemisphere. So on this next little sheet we're going to work on, that's what we're going to talk about. All right, so try to always remember your north, your south, your east, your west, and how our Earth is a little bit of a tilt there. And we, of course, are more like around here. We're not too cold. We're not too hot. In the summer, of course, we can get pretty hot. And in the winter, we can get really cold. But normally, we're not one way or the other. We have a mixture of stuff. But if you live down here, you'd be hot all the time. And if you lived up here, or down here, you'd be cold all the time. All right, so now let's drift down over here. My little headquarters here, by the way. So, let's look at this sheet here. You see there's these 4 lines. You see this one says the equator. That goes this way. And that middle line is called the prime meridian. Now, you don't have to remember a lot of that. When you get older, you'll learn more about that kind of stuff. But that's just a way. They use lines like the prime meridian and the equator to help people find their way around Earth easier. Because as you get older and you look at bigger maps, you'll see all these extra lines all over the maps called longitude and latitude. And it's how we find things. Whether you're lost in the middle of the ocean or somewhere in Asia, you can tell them the directions of your longitude and latitude. Okay, you don't have to worry about that right now. We're in first grade. But I know you guys are smart, and I'd like to give you little bits of information like that for right now. And that way, if you get curious, you can always Google that and go, hey, tell me about the prime meridian. All right? But for right now, remember, the Earth is, of course, a big ball, a sphere, remember? A circle on paper. But in real life, that circle, when it becomes 3D, becomes a ball, which is a sphere. But here, we had to like cut this open, like cut it and lay it flat. So if we cut the top of the Earth off and lay it all down, it would look something like this, okay? So we have all our continents here. And of course you see the equator separating our northern hemisphere and our southern hemisphere. And the prime meridian separating the western hemisphere on this side, remember, west, from the eastern hemisphere, east. It's very important to remember your directions. If you ever get lost, you need to know north, south, east, and west. So, look at these. Now, the continents, of course, don't have names on them. They just have letters. But that's going to be for you to do. I'm going to have this downloaded for you, so you can work on this at home if I did not already do this. So take a look here. So we got this one down at the bottom. We got this one over here. Got this big one here. We got this one over here. Now, just because you don't really see a line, it still counts that this area is another one, okay? And this big one, and this big one, and that big one. Remember what I said about how some of them look like they would have fit together like giant puzzle pieces a long time ago, right? Now, this is just the first page. Let's take a look at the second page here. It says, can you name the continents? So you have continent A is this. Now, if you look, they're not in order. You're used to doing it a certain way, singing our songs or whatever. But now remember, A is here, B, C is over here, but then D goes back there. So keep in mind, don't just write down what you think is the right order. Make sure you look at what letter you're looking at, okay? All right, have fun with that.